Hello and welcome to Church at Home with Rachael for Tuesday, the 11th of April. This is Tuesday of Easter week, and I pray that this has been a good week for you. For those of you who are able to have a long weekend and have yesterday off work, I hope that you were able to take advantage of it, get some rest, and maybe be with family and friends or do some things that you really enjoy doing. I wanted to talk to you today about a question that I ask myself on a fairly regular basis. I don't always know what the answer is, and sometimes when I figure I know what the answer is, I don't necessarily like the answer. But it's something that I think about a lot because it's a call for me to pay attention to what God is calling me to do. The question is, where is God active in the neighborhood? So, first of all, the neighborhood. What is the neighborhood? For me, my neighborhood could be around 8th Ave. We have a lovely green space across the front from the front of our house that's going to be turned into a park with a soccer field and a year-round hockey rink. Like I think it'll probably be sort of ball hockey in the summer and flooded for with ice for ice hockey in the winter when the Rotary gets raises enough money to do that. Hopefully, it'll be quickly, and that means that my neighborhood will change. Right now, they flood a rim, a circle around it, so in the winter people can skate and sort of do laps, and that's beautiful. And people take their dogs across and things like that. But it's not a specific park where people intentionally hang out. But when the Rotary Club does its work, it will become a hangout spot for kids and teenagers and for families, which will change my neighborhood. My neighborhood could also be the city or the town of Wainwright and the things that are happening. My neighborhood could also, I could recognize my neighborhood as being the very area, the geographical area in which I serve, being Wainwright, Edgerton, and Vermilion, which is a pretty big, Dayspring is a pretty big geographical footprint. That could be my neighborhood. My neighborhood could indeed even just be within my own home. My relationship with my husband and my dog, the people that we invite over for dinner, the people who come to sit and have coffee, the family that we have visit us in the summer. Uh, our neighborhoods are can be very different things, and I think we need to recognize that we need to be paying attention to what our neighborhoods are. In the Gospels, Jesus tells us that we are to love our neighbor as we love ourselves. And somebody asked him, "Who's your neighbor?" Everybody's our neighbor. Everybody's our neighbor. Even our enemies are our neighbors. So this idea of neighborhood and who is our neighbor, we need to do some really strong work on figuring out who it is that we live with and who we interact with. And just because you have a neighbor doesn't mean you like your neighbor. Sometimes your neighbor is really annoying. I have great neighbors next door, amazing kids. They love to play with dude. They are incredible people. I think they're being posted out. They're a military family. I think they're being posted out this summer. It'll be a shame to see them go, but hopefully that'll give us an opportunity for new neighbors and new friends. But sometimes, you just got that curmudgeonly old man or woman who's like just grumpy about everything, or, that person who does not take care of their property, and brings down the property values, or that person who is so meticulous about their property that they look down their nose at yours because you're busy and making sure that every single dandelion is snipped and gone immediately as soon as it pops its wee little beautiful head, is important. Who knows? Whoever your neighbor is, we don't always have to get along with them. We don't always have to see eye to eye, but we do need to recognize that they are our neighbor. So that for where is God active in the neighborhood? We need to think about the word neighbor, and we need to think about where is our neighborhood. The question is, where is God active? I think a bigger question would be, where is God not active? I mean, God created our neighborhoods. God created the land upon which our neighborhoods exist. God created the very essence of who our neighbors are. God is active all over it. God's fingerprints are, completely covering every aspect of that. So where is God active in the neighborhood? And then the question I think that comes from that, for me anyway, that comes from that becomes, if God is active in my neighborhood, then do I have the right to not be active in my neighborhood? And I think I know for me, from my baptismal promises, from my ordination vows, for just being a human being, that no, the answer is no, I don't have the right to not be active. God put this neighborhood into being and placed part of it in my care. and has called me to be aware of and present to my neighbors and my neighborhood. So I have a divine call, a vocational call, to serve and to be present and to pray. And so I think that asking the question, where is God active in the neighborhood? It's only a beginning question, because the next thing that has to happen is to ask, how is God calling me to be active in my neighborhood? One of those things I can do is to pray. I can pray. Now, every once in a while, I'll hear about a church. I've never done this myself, but I've heard other people say how powerful it can be. Church groups will go and they'll pray the neighborhood. So they'll go and they'll pray every house, every business in a neighborhood. In some cases, it's kind of like Christmas caroling, when you go up and you ring the doorbell and you sing a Christmas carol. Some people will go up and say, this is what we're doing, and if you're comfortable, is there anything in particular you'd like us to pray for? And sometimes people will be like, get away from my house, I don't want you to pray for me at all. But you never know, somebody might say, wow, that's incredible, thank you. I could absolutely use prayer about X, Y, or Z. My son is going off to university, or my husband is facing retirement, or I've been diagnosed with something, or we're thinking about making a big life-changing decision. Could you please pray for God's wisdom for that? Sometimes it could be simply, you're praying, somebody asks what you're doing, and they've never even thought of prayer. They don't know about God. They're not anti-God. They don't think that God's full of bollocks. They just don't think about God. And that might be the opportunity that you are given to evangelize. And I know for some people that's a really horrible word. It's like the F word, the E word, evangelism. Evangelism means to share the good news. It doesn't mean you have to convert someone. You don't have to pray over them. You don't have to put your hand on their forehead and say, God, strike the demon out of this child. Nothing like that. It just simply means you're sharing good news. Euangelia. You're sharing the good news. So to share good news with someone might mean you simply say to them, by the way, that sounds like something's being ripped apart is a toy. Dude's ripping a toy apart. So just ignore him. He's having fun. But to share the good news, to say to somebody, that we're just out here trying to take care of the neighborhood. We want to pray for you. They may have never heard of God and say, well, what's this God you're talking about? I don't understand. Or I've never understood that. Or why would you want to do that? Why would you want to go door to door and pray for people? It's an opportunity for a conversation. And if somebody slams the door and says, get away from me, you cursed people, okay, not their cup of tea. But you've reached out and offered. And that's all we can ask, is just you reach out and offer. And if your offer is not received, no big deal. But this idea of praying for the neighborhood, praying for the people around you, or you don't have to go so far. Maybe just in your only daily work, when you're doing the dishes, looking out the window, pray for the people who are walking by that you see walking their dogs, or pray for your neighbor across the street. Pray for the folks at work. The fact that you're praying can change the world. Don't ask me how. I am still struggling to figure out how it is that prayer works, but I believe that it does. So that's a topic for another day when I have more wherewithal to think about it. But this idea that where is God active in the neighborhood? God is active in the neighborhood where you are active in the neighborhood. And I think that's really important. And it doesn't have to be big. Like I said, it doesn't have to be going door to door and asking people if you can pray for them. It could simply be, picking up garbage in the neighborhood. If somebody's recycling bin gets pushed over in the wind, putting it all back in the box. It could be rolling somebody's garbage can back up to the house for them after it's been emptied. It could be keeping an eye out for them. We, as somebody who's God is totally active in our neighborhood, since Rob has been sick and we've had so much snow and our snowblower hasn't been working, we have a gentleman down the street who comes up and he clears out our snow for us. We didn't even ask him; he just does it. A couple days ago, we had a little skiff of snow, and Rob went to go to work and he noticed that the snow hadn't been shoveled, but it had been swept like with a broom. It wasn't me; it was our neighbor. God is active in our neighborhood. How can you be active in your neighborhood? How can you serve God by serving in your neighborhood? And how can you give thanks for the ways that other people are serving and acting for God in your neighborhood for you? Just something to think about this Easter week. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you again tomorrow for Church at Home with Rachael. God bless.